When my daughter-in-law slammed the door and said, "You're done controlling this family," I didn't raise my voice. I recorded the moment. By sunset, the truth was documented, notarized, and filed where no lie could reach. That day wasn't an ending. It was the start of everything. The ICU hummed with its usual rhythm. Steady, detached, clinical. I sat in that cracked vinyl chair, tracing the faint pattern of rain as it streamed down the window pane, the smell of antiseptic mixed with the faint sweetness of Ellery's morphine drip. The monitor ticked its slow metronome, marking every fragile breath my husband took. 16 a minute, I counted out of habit, the way I used to count for patients when I worked the night shift years ago. The fluorescent light washed the room in dull white, the kind that never lets you forget what kind of place you're in. Hospitals don't measure time in hours. They measure it in alarms and footsteps. Celine, the night nurse, peeked in with a tired smile. "You hanging in there, Miss Rhodes?" she asked softly. "That's the plan, baby," I told her, tucking Ellery's blanket up around his shoulders. She moved like someone who'd seen too many goodbyes but hadn't learned how to stop caring. When she left, the rain whispered again against the glass. "My name is Callista Rhodes, and I don't scare easy. I spent 40 years as a charge nurse in this same hospital. I've seen people fight for breath, and I've seen them let go. I was raised in North Portland by parents who believed in paying bills on time, cooking your own food, and never begging for kindness. Ellery and I built our lives that way, straightforward, steady, everything written down, logged, signed. The mortgage was paid, the savings secure. What I couldn't balance lately was the feeling that the family I'd held together was starting to look through me like I was furniture. My biggest fear wasn't loss. It was being erased. Ellery's hand twitched under mine. I pressed my thumb against his knuckles. "You always told those interns to listen before they spoke," I whispered. "I'm still listening, baby." Then the phone buzzed on the tray table. Slicing through the quiet, the name glowing on the screen made my stomach tighten. Seraphine, my daughter. Hawaii. I hesitated, then answered. "Hey, Mom, just checking in," she said brightly. Wind and waves in the background. "Reception's bad, so I'll keep it quick." Behind her voice came laughter, glasses clinking, a man's low chuckle. "Baby," I said carefully, "your daddy's numbers aren't good tonight. Maybe it's time you came home." "Mom," she sighed, annoyed. "Flights are impossible right now. I finally took a break. Don't guilt me, okay?" "No guilt," I said evenly. "Just facts. He asked for you twice today." "Mom, I can FaceTime tomorrow. I can't drop everything every time you panic." More laughter. Someone in the background shouted, "Shots!" I could almost feel the salt air on her end, the way she chose sunshine over duty. "It's not panic," I said. "It's your father's breath. Mom, be real. He probably won't last the weekend. I'm not wasting my trip." The sentence hit like cold steel. I moved the phone from speaker to my ear, lowering my voice. "I'm not going to teach you empathy over rum," I said. "I'm asking for presence. Boundaries. Mom, my therapist says I overgive. I'm choosing me this time." Her tone was final, cheerful even. "All right then," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Good night, Seraphine." I ended the call and laid the phone face down. The monitor beeped on, counting what mattered. I took out my small spiral notebook and wrote the time, 12:46 a.m. Call with Seraphine. Old habits die hard, if it's not charted. It didn't happen. Celine returned to check vitals, glancing at me with quiet sympathy. "Family's messy," she murmured. "Yes, ma'am," I said, "but messy don't mean absent." After she left, I texted one more line. "Your father asked for you again. Visiting hours flexible." The message showed read, then nothing. I turned the phone face down again and whispered, "I'll pick my hour, not yours." The rain deepened outside, tapping the window like a metronome. I thought about something Ellery always told his residents. You don't argue with lab results. You respond. I realized that worked for family too. You don't argue with character. You record it. I reached into my purse and touched the folder holding his advance directive. Power of attorney, and the will we'd updated last year. It wasn't for vengeance. It was for clarity. I straightened the blind, letting a single stripe of streetlight fall across Ellery's face. "I'm here," I told him. That's the whole promise. The insult from Seraphine replayed in my head, sharper each time. Words like that don't just hurt. They redraw maps. Tonight drew the first crack in hours. At 2:11 a.m. The phone lit again, not from Hawaii. At 2:11 a.m. A soft voice called my name from the hallway. I stood, stretching the stiffness from my back before stepping out. The charge nurse met me halfway, her eyes steady. "Miss Rhodes, we're stable. No code, no crash. You can breathe tonight." That was mercy spoken in plain words. I nodded, glanced at the wall clock. 2:13. I checked Ellery's drip rate, counted his breaths again, 15, maybe 16 per minute. My old nurse reflexes never retired. Celine appeared with a styrofoam cup. "You want coffee?" she asked. "Not the kind that jitters the truth. Honey," I said. She laughed quietly, then drifted off. I wrote the time and note in my small spiral pad. "Labs due 6 o'clock, hold steady." I touched Ellery's shoulder before sitting back down. "You rest, baby. I'll handle the grown folk business." By dawn, I wandered into the family lounge. The TV mumbled CNN headlines about storms in Florida. The vending machine hummed, and a man in a Navy cap rubbed his knees, muttering about his VA meds. Two grandmothers compared casserole recipes like war stories. I cupped my hands around coffee too thin to be worth a refill. Outside, the drizzle painted the parking lot silver. "Hospitals teach you the budget of breath," one woman told me. "They also teach you who shows up," I replied, on a napkin. I made a list. Ask for clarity. Rest, stop begging. My phone sat face up. The last text to Seraphine still marked red. I smiled at the irony of it. To anyone watching, I'd look calm, inside. I was timing patience the way others timed contractions, just before sunrise. I borrowed guest Wi-Fi and scrolled through a cousin's tag. There she was, Seraphine, my daughter, public profile wide open. The first photo, her in a lei, captioned Maui, mornings hit different, then a poolside drink. Sunset yoga, another with a man I didn't recognize. I started counting, whispering numbers like I was back charting vitals. 1, 2, 3, until 58 pictures. Each one louder than her silence. The caption stung. "Protect your peace. If they wanted to, they would." Her friends commented with hearts, crowns and praise, not one word about her father, whose monitor beeped in rhythm to her vacation reels. I didn't cry. I just documented, screenshots numbered, timestamped. 2024-10-26_05-2 1_am_post_01.jpg post_58.jpg. When I was done, I texted her again. "Your father asks for you. Visiting hours flexible? I'll be here." Message sent, delivered, no dots. I leaned back and remembered Ellery 10 years ago at our kitchen table. Tuition bill between us. "We can swing it," he'd said. "I'll sell the boat." He did. Sold his pride on Craigslist so she could graduate debt-free. Saturdays he tutored her on napkins, explaining molecules like gospel. On her graduation day, his suit hung loose from chemo, but he yelled, "That's my baby!" like he was 20 again. We believed showing up was love's language. Now, I looked at her photos and saw translation failure. We taught presence. She learned optics. My sadness shifted into precision, the kind that doesn't shake. At 7:05 a.m., I sent one last message. "Dr. Rounds at 8:15. If you can't come, say it plain." Her reply came an hour later. "I'm prioritizing my mental health. Boundaries. I'll FaceTime tonight when..." My answer: "Your father doesn't need a screen. He needs a daughter." 3 dots blinked, vanished. Then, "Please don't manipulate me," I whispered to the empty lounge. "All right then." Boundaries without duty, just distance in disguise. The chapel alcove was quiet, sunlight cutting through stained glass in threads of gold. I picked up one of the smooth prayer stones, rolled it in my palm. I didn't pray for miracles. I prayed for a spine that didn't rattle. Lord, help me close doors kindly. I said. I counted what I did have. My notebook, Ellery's medical papers, old friends at the county office, tools, not weapons, choices, not chaos. When I returned to the ICU, Celine met me at the door. Vitals are steady. Miss Rhodes, Dr. Hawthorne's coming soon. I nodded, straightened Ellery's blanket, checked the board, rewrote the date, bold enough to stop time. I took a small fruit cup from the tray and forced 2 bites, because clear minds need sugar. My phone buzzed. A new post. Seraphine again, cocktail in hand, caption choose joy, always. The timestamp matched the minute Ellery's oxygen had dipped. I lined up all 58 screenshots in a silent grid. Patterns tell stories, numbers never will. I looked at Ellery and whispered, actions have outcomes. Then I wrote in my notebook, stop asking Seraphine to be someone she's not. I placed it beside his hand, pen parallel. Order in small things first. My next call wouldn't be to my daughter. It would be to someone fluent in law, not excuses. At 8:12 a.m., the door opened. Doctor. Hawthorne entered with her rounding list and eyes too honest to soften bad news. Doctor. Hawthorne came in just as the sun began to break through the gray. She wore soft-soled shoes that made no sound, but her presence steadied the room. I stood up. Notebook open, pen ready. The residents trailed behind her like quiet shadows. She spoke gently, in words that didn't try to sound heroic. Oxygen stable. Pain managed. Numbers trending south. But no alarms. We're focusing on comfort and presence, she said. I asked clear questions, each one practical. Timing for meds, call thresholds, weekend coverage. She nodded, pleased that I spoke her language. Then her gaze settled on me. We're in a window where words still land. I underlined the word window 3 times. The residents filed out. The beeps and hums returned, and I realized the real conversation hadn't even started. I moved closer, sat on the edge of the bed. Morning, love, I whispered, smoothing the sheet. We got a bit of sun today, just a thread, but it counts. Ellery's eyes fluttered open. He squeezed my hand twice. Our code for, I hear you. Those hands had once taught students how to read hearts from machines. Now they only searched for mine. I gave him the day's report like we used to plan grocery runs. You're scheduled easy, meds, some music, chaplain later if you want. His lips moved. Don't let them fuss me. Never, I said. He was still the man who taught that dignity was part of treatment. We're in that window, I murmured, careful not to say too much. He nodded. No fear, no dramatics. His kind of courage didn't need speeches. Then it came. His voice rough but steady. Where's our girl? The air stopped moving. I could have lied. But truth is what love deserves. She's not here. Elle? She's in Hawaii. He blinked once. Squeezed my hand hard. Did you ask? Twice. She read both messages. Said she'd FaceTime. I kept my voice calm. Like reading vitals. His eyes drifted toward the ceiling, tracing invisible constellations only he could see. Some folks don't come when love calls, he said softly. We still have to answer anyway. It landed somewhere between heartbreak and grace. He motioned for me to lean closer. Cal, don't waste breath teaching compassion to a wall. His words came out slow, each one measured like a final order. Choose justice, not noise. You hear me? I hear you. You don't argue with labs, he whispered. You respond. Same with character. I repeated every word back to him, the way I used to repeat doctor's orders during rounds, confirmation that I understood. Do what honors the work we did, not the posts she writes. He exhaled, thin and final. I kissed his temple. That was the moment the plan found its spine. I stepped into the hall and sent the last message I'd ever write her. Your father is lucid and asking for you this morning. If you can come now. No sermon, no guilt. I logged the time in my notebook like I was charting medication. Back inside. I set the phone beside the flowers Celine had just refreshed. I made the ask that won't shame us, I told Ellery. He nodded faintly. I turned on Coltrane, the sound soft as breath. My silence wasn't surrender, it was aim. Celine came in, eyes kind. "You okay, Miss Rhodes?" "I'm on task," I said. She smiled, the kind of woman-to-woman look that means I see you. I asked her to call the chaplain later, not for saving, just witnessing. In my purse lay the papers Ellery signed months ago, and in my mind, his order, justice without noise. I checked a box in my notes. Stop asking, start arranging. For those my age watching later, I'd say, have your papers before your crisis. The phone buzzed once. "Can't today." Time zone. "Mom, I'll call later." No apology, no promise. I didn't show him the message. "She won't make it this morning," I said. He nodded. Doctor to nurse, understanding a truth that didn't need phrasing. I took his hand again and whispered, "I'll do right by your name." He blinked once, slow as a prayer. I wrote my last note of the morning. Justice, not noise. By noon, the plan had a shape, and the next call I placed was not to my daughter, Doctor. Hawthorne arrived just after breakfast rounds, her clipboard close to her chest like it carried the final word. Her tone was even, kind but not patted. His liver numbers are climbing. We're measuring time in weeks, maybe days. She didn't dramatize it. She didn't need to. I nodded once, writing down the essentials. Comfort algorithm, thresholds, hospice consult. My handwriting stayed neat, the way it does when you've lived inside hospitals too long to flinch. Ellery's hand found mine. He mouthed, "You steer." And I did. I asked for the chaplain, not to plead for miracles, but to serve as a witness. Celine adjusted the pillow. Our eyes met, two women who understood what presence meant when medicine ran out. I kissed his temple and said, "I'll be back by supper. Jazz will be waiting." He blinked once. Slow as an amen. By 10. I was in an elevator downtown. The hum of cables and fluorescent buzz sounded like judgment. Lydia Strathmore met me with no small talk, just a nod and a gesture to the chair opposite hers. Oak table, legal pads, a single pen between us. I laid down my folder like a tray of instruments. Power of attorney, marriage certificate, old will, bank lists. "We confirm I'm still primary?" "You are," she said. "Intent remains?" "It does," I answered. "What honors your husband?" she asked. "Direct as any physician." "A scholarship," I said. "For nursing and physician assistant students, kids from the kind of neighborhoods he grew up in." Lydia's nod was crisp approval. "Intentional disinheritance is lawful," she said. "We'll execute today. 2 witnesses, 1 notary." I signed the first draft before the ink had cooled, my hand steady as if charting vitals. When the final copy lay in front of me, I read every word aloud. I intentionally make no provision for my daughter, Seraphine Dane Rhodes. The sentence didn't tremble. Lydia's paralegal entered with the notary and 2 witnesses. Pens moved, seals pressed. The sound of the notary's stamp hit like a heartbeat. Final, factual. The scholarship fund paragraph gleamed in bold. Ellery Rhodes Clinical Scholarship. Lydia slid the finished packet into a manila envelope, labeled and dated. I exhaled like I used to after a code. No celebration, just certainty. The kind of silence that meant, it's done. Back home. My kitchen became a command post. I spread out the 58 screenshots in a clean grid, each with its timestamp, each proof of absence. I printed her "Protect Your Peace" captions and stapled them beside the photos. Then I downloaded every text, every read receipt, every silence disguised as self-care. I typed a log, names, times, witnesses, and titled it "Opportunities to Show Up." Beneath it, another page, witness list. It read like a shift report. I didn't add adjectives. I didn't need to. The facts had tone enough. When I closed the folder, it made a flat, decisive sound. 2 envelopes now sat on my table. 1 legal, 1 emotional. The phone pinged again. Seraphine's new post, Sunset Pool. Caption, "Protect your peace. Folks can drain you." I didn't double tap. I didn't even sigh. I saved it with a timestamp and whispered to the refrigerator. "It's not noise if it's a record." I circled tomorrow's date, estate packet pickup, and drew a small box at 6 p.m. Jazz for Ellery. Some people pray, I schedule. When I returned to the ICU, the light had changed. Golden, low. Celine was humming while charting Doctor. Hawthorne had signed the comfort orders. I set the small speaker near Ellery's bed, the first note of Coltrane filling the air like rain on pavement. Papers signed. I told him softly, scholarship funded, your name, your work. His lips lifted in the faintest smile. The chief was satisfied. The husband was seen. I slipped the 2 envelopes into my tote. They made a sound I'll never forget, the soft click of closure. We listened to the music until the monitors joined in rhythm. At 9:17 p.m., my phone lit the dark, Seraphine's flight confirmation home, and a message from an unknown account that read, "She's not alone." The sound came first, hard plastic wheels crossing my old oak floors. I didn't look up from my coffee. The cup had gone lukewarm, but I held it steady anyway. "Mom," Seraphine called, voice bright and sharp like she owned the morning. Cade trailed behind her, earbuds dangling. That half-smirk influencers wear even when the camera's off. She smelled like coconut sunscreen and jet lag, not grief. "Shoes off, voices low," I said, same tone I used on my nursing floor for visiting families. She rolled her eyes. "I just got off a red-eye, don't start," Cade whispered. "Babe, later. Just chill." I pointed upstairs. "There's something on your pillow. Read it before we talk." She shrugged, stomped up. The thud of her bag hit carpet. Then came the silence before the storm. A tear of paper, a gasp, and then her voice. Flat, shocked. "Is this a joke?" I stayed where I was, 1 step below the landing. "It's witnessed, notarized, and filed," I said. She appeared in the hallway, clutching the letter. "You can't do this to your own daughter." I met her eyes. "I did it for his name and my peace." Cade crossed his arms, testing his part in the scene. "We'll contest." "Read page 2, I told him. "Oregon law allows intentional disinheritance with clarity. You'll find plenty." Seraphine's face flushed. "You've lost it, Mom. This is abuse." "No," I said, calm as vitals on a stable monitor. "This is consequence." We moved to the dining table. I opened the evidence folder like a nurse opening a sterile tray. 58 printed posts, each with timestamps arranged edge to edge. March 12th, I said. ICU admission, March 13th through 26th. Your stories, a siwayisa. Pool days, cocktails. I slid a page forward. Caption, protect your peace. Next to it, my note, oxygen increased at 1820. Cade leaned forward, scoffing, petty. I smiled without warmth. That's what people call facts when they hurt. I showed the witness log. Celine Avery, doctor. Isabel Hawthorne. 2 professionals, no drama, just presence. You're showing off your grief homework? Seraphine snapped. No, I said. I'm showing you the test you didn't show up for. The air shifted when Cade raised his phone chest high, thumb hovering. Don't, I said. He ignored me. I nodded toward the entry bowl. All recording devices go there, or you both leave. Oregon's a 2-party consent state, and this is one party that does not consent. He hesitated. But I didn't blink. Bowl. The phone clacked against ceramic, loud enough to feel like punctuation. I handed Seraphine a printed sheet. Funeral plans, times, chapel, dress code. You may collect belongings Sunday or Monday, noon to 5, no guests, no filming, daylight only. She laughed, dry, furious. You can't lock me out. The locksmith comes Tuesday, Cade muttered. You know this could go viral. Grief isn't content, I said quietly. The tension drained by degrees. I passed her another paper. You're welcome to attend the service. Back row. If you cause a scene, you'll be escorted out. She gripped the manila edge. You really hate me? I'm too old for hate. Boundaries will do. Cade pocketed his phone when I nodded. The fight sagged, but pride stayed. I pointed toward 2 boxes labeled Seraphine. Start upstairs. I'll be in the kitchen. No shouting. They went. The house finally breathed again. Then my phone buzzed. A group chat alert flashing on my smartwatch. Plan B tonight, She won't see it coming. I saved it, forwarded it to my locked folder named Security, and said nothing. Silence has better memory than argument. I washed my cup, set it upside down in the rack. The ICU called, Celine's calm voice. "Miss Rhodes, can you come in?" His breathing changed. I looked at the stairs. Drawers opened, zippers rasped. I grabbed my tote. The manila envelope and evidence folder thudded together, locked the door behind me, and stepped into the gray Portland noon. By the time I reached the garage, my phone pinged again. The alert read, "Bank of Oregon, suspicious attempt to access Ellery Rhodes's account." By the time I reached the nurse's station, my hands had steadied into habit. I signed the hospice transition forms while Celine briefed me. Ellery's breathing shallow but rhythmic. Pain under control. On speaker, Lydia guided me through the bank's security menu. "State your authority." "Durable power of attorney, successor trustee," I said. The agent confirmed. A ping followed. Seraphine's save device had tried to access Ellery's debit account. "Freeze all linked cards," I ordered. I wrote down the case number, the agent's name, the exact minute. "Paper trails are armor. Doctor." Hawthorne appeared beside me, her tone kind but spare. "Would you like a private room?" "No," I said. The chapel at 2. We'll keep the ICU calm." I texted my daughter. "Meet me at the chapel, 2 p.m. No filming, no shouting. This is about your father." A second alert flashed. A blocked attempt. Same IP. Lydia's voice sharpened. "Forward that notice to me. We'll add it to the estate file." Within minutes, I received a cease and desist draft and a TRO packet. I sent it to my locked folder. Celine leaned in. "Do we need security?" "Yes," I said. "Quietly?" She nodded and messaged the front desk. I turned my focus back to Ellery's room. The bank's safe now," I whispered, smoothing his blanket. His eyelids fluttered once. A thank you, without words. Footsteps echoed down the hallway, heels and defiance. Seraphine's perfume hit before her voice did. Cade followed, holding his phone like a peace offering that could still wound. "We saw your little freeze," she said. I pointed to the no recording sign. "Phone's in the bin or wait outside." Celine stood nearby, voice level. "Hospital privacy rules apply to family, too." Cade hesitated, then dropped the device into the plexi bin. The clang echoed. "We'll talk in the chapel," I said. "You raise your voice. We stop," she muttered to him. "She's staging a scene." "No," I replied. "I'm staging clarity." The chapel was bright. Oak benches, sunlight spilling through a stained glass dove. Reverend Jonah Keating greeted us with a nod and water glasses. I set 3 envelopes on the table, advance directive, trust excerpt, personal letter. "Ground rules," I began. "1 speaker at a time, respect or recess." Seraphine crossed her legs, arms folded. "You're cutting me out of my legacy." I gestured to envelope 1. Jonah unfolded the notarized directive and read aloud. "Ellery named me sole medical decision-maker. No other next-of-kin authority assigned." The words landed heavy. Seraphine's eyes flicked downward. I reached for Ellery's tablet, tapped play. His voice filled the room, thin but certain. "Callista, my anchor, Celine. Thank you. Seraphine. You were invited to show up. You chose beaches." Her jaw tightened. He continued. "Our wealth will fund scholarships for young people who can't afford to study medicine. That's how love works. It multiplies." Silence followed. Then Jonah read the trust excerpt, the disinheritance clause, the endowment details, successor trustee order. "Coercion," Seraphine shouted. Lydia's voice came through the speakerphone. "Time-stamped, capacity verified, witnessed by 2 physicians." I ended it softly. "This isn't punishment, it's alignment." Seraphine shot to her feet. "You can't humiliate me in a church. You're doing that yourself," I said. "The chapel only holds the light." Celine moved to the door. Gentle but firm. Jonah motioned her back to her seat. Cade asked, "So, no share? Not even for closure costs?" Lydia answered evenly. "Probate locks all funds until finalization." I slid across a single page. "Funeral details, back row seating, dress code, black or navy." Seraphine whispered, "I'll take this to the internet. Then Discovery will take it from there," I said. The room stilled. I wrote the time, attendees, and summary in my notebook. Jonah signed as witness. Celine led them out through the side hallway. Voices fading. I walked back to Ellery's bedside. Tablet still in my hands. "Heard your voice today," I murmured. "It landed," I texted Lydia. "Meeting complete. Follow-up tonight." Her reply blinked. "Already sent." I tucked the letter back into my tote. Outside, a volunteer cart rolled past with teacups, clinking like wind chimes. Then the ICU alarm chirped, soft, different, enough to make me stand. Celine met me in the doorway, voice low and sure. "It's time." I stepped back into Ellery's room. The lights dimmed to a golden hush. Rain traced faint lines on the window. "Doctor." Hawthorne spoke softly, explaining what comfort care meant in the next hour. No noise, no struggle, just ease. I told Ellery about the sunlight on the chapel floor and how his voice filled it earlier. My hand rested over his chest. His breaths came slower, then steadier, then slow again. "Remember those students?" I whispered. "The one who called you Doc Jazz?" Celine offered me a chair, but I chose to stand, counting breaths in rhythm with my own. The monitor pulsed its soft metronome. I whispered, "I've got you." The promise we made 20 years ago. The final chirp was faint, then gone. Celine looked up, nodded. "He's resting now," she said. "Reverend." Jonah came quietly, reading a psalm under his breath. Ellery's last exhale was gentle, almost polite. I kept my palm in place until stillness turned into fact. Celine muted the monitor. "Doctor." Hawthorne confirmed time of death. I repeated it, anchoring truth in my own mouth. There were no tears, just calm precision. We completed the release forms, the transfer orders. Celine printed copies. I initialed each line. "He's gone." I texted Lydia. "Within seconds. Clock starts. I'll post notices. Schedule the obituary. Before leaving." I smoothed Ellery's hair, tucked his tablet into my tote, and let Jonah's quiet blessing fill the room. Peace first, courage next, at home. Lydia and I edited the obituary over speaker. I trimmed her legal phrasing into plain talk. Decades of oncology service. Gratitude to Mercy General. No flowers. Support the Ellery and Callista Rhodes Scholarship for First-Gen Healers. One photo, him in his old Navy cardigan, grinning at our porch tomatoes. No hero shots, I said. He liked being ordinary. We scheduled the parish bulletin note, just 2 sentences. The obituary went live at 7. Within minutes, comments poured in. Nurses, former patients, neighbors. "He saved my brother. He showed up after his shift." I sat still and read them all, the screen glowing like a vigil candle. By 9. The internet had caught scent of blood and grace. A blog reposted the scholarship line beside Seraphine's Maui selfies. The contrast went viral. Donations surged past 5 figures before midnight. Portland Reddit lit up. Side-by-side screenshots of her Protect Your Peace post and a nurse's note. We kept a chair by his bed. Cade's defense. Grief looks different for everyone. Was met with 1,000 replies. So does love. 2 brand partners dropped her overnight. Lydia called. HR opened an internal review. Travel logs, reputation clause. I thanked her. Poured chamomile tea and said, "Justice travels quiet, but it travels." Morning brought casseroles, flowers, and misses. Patel's chai. I set out a donation QR and guest book. Coltrane's sax floated through the house. The same record from Ellery's first residency. Reverend. Jonah stopped by with the service outline. "The obituary struck the right tone," he said. "Let the scholarship do the talking." A boy from down the block slipped in 10 wrinkled dollars. "For the fun," he mumbled. I pressed his hand. "You're who it's for, baby." When everyone left, I sat on the stairs, listing courage alongside bread and milk. At the funeral home, decisions became armor, oak casket, tulips, short eulogy, no slideshow. Lydia coordinated discreet security with the church. Celine would bring 2 nurses on break. I checked the proof of the program, QR for donations. Line beneath it, seeds Ellery planted keep growing. The director asked about music. I chose Naima. No speeches, just melody. Saturday morning. St. Bartholomew's filled before the hour. Nurses in scrubs, neighbors in sweaters, former patients clutching tissues. I took the front pew, Celine to my left, Lydia near the aisle. Seraphine entered late, all sharp black and red lipstick. Scanning for cameras, Cade hovered, an usher guided him to the back. Jonah opened with, "We gather for a neighbor, a physician, a husband." The janitor from Mercy stood during open sharing and said, "He remembered my name when nobody else did." The whole sanctuary exhaled together. After the recessional, I stood in the vestibule greeting mourners, the basket brimmed with folded bills. Seraphine approached, voice brittle. "You humiliated me. I'll sue." Lydia slid forward, calm as glass. "Please accept service," she said, handing Cade the envelope marked "No Contact Notice." He blanched. The usher redirected them toward the courtyard, polite but firm. Jonah rested a hand on my shoulder, steadying. "You did right," he murmured. Outside. The church bell tolled while a courier crossed the lawn. He handed Seraphine another envelope. HR letterhead, formal as stone. Cameras clicked. She smoothed the paper, face tightening. At the curb, she turned, ready to strike, then froze as the news van pulled up, the scholarship banner scrolling across its screen. She swallowed her words and stepped back into shadow. I arrived at the courthouse 20 minutes early with Lydia Strathmore. We chose the second row, close enough to the bench to hear every word, far enough to stay out of spectacle. The air carried that faint metallic chill that all government buildings have. Seraphine swept in late, heels sharp, eyes scanning for sympathy. Cade trailed behind, whispering something about optics. Lydia straightened 2 slim binders labeled Estate and Scholarship. "Facts only," I said quietly. She nodded. My phone was on Do Not Disturb. Ellery's wedding band hung from my chain. The bailiff called roll. "Probate of Rhodes," he announced. The courtroom settled. Lydia opened with a voice that could slice paper. "This is a validation and enforcement hearing for the last will and trust of Dr. Ellery Rhodes." She laid out the pillars. Intentional disinheritance, scholarship formation, misappropriations during hospice. Her tone was clean, surgical. The opposing counsel stood, leaning on grief and misunderstanding. "The daughter acted in good faith," he said. Judge Alvarez raised an eyebrow. "Evidence will do the talking." The minute hand above the seal ticked forward, steady as breath. I folded my hands and let the facts walk themselves to daylight. Lydia introduced Exhibit A, travel charges, 5-star hotel, designer rental dated during Ellery's hospice admission. Exhibit B, account alerts routed to Cade's device. I took the stand briefly. "I was at the hospital those days." I said, he wasn't authorized." The compliance officer joined by phone, confirming it matched an exploitation pattern. Lydia held up the hospice log showing Seraphine's phone deposited in the chapel's recording bin. "She posted the same day," I said softly. The judge glanced up. "Duly noted?" The silence stretched. "He asked for her," I added. "She posted a beach." The room stayed very still. Then Lydia produced the document that ended debate. A notarized power of attorney revocation dated 2 weeks before Maui. The judge's voice sharpened. "So there was no authority." Celine testified next, her hands folded in her lap, steady as always. "I counted the cash," she said. "Envelope said rent." But his handwriting wasn't there. Lydia submitted Dr. Isabel's letter for the record. Patient lucid, chose scholarship. Requested daughter be comforted. Not funded. That single line landed like gospel. The judge leaned back, exhaled through his nose. The defense whispered among themselves. Lydia let the silence stand. Silence can convict louder than outrage. When opposing counsel tried to paint me as vindictive, I met his gaze. "I am careful," I said. "That's all." Lydia's objection to tone was sustained. Cade muttered under his breath, and the bailiff's raised brow silenced him. I almost smiled. Years of clinical rounds had trained me for precision under pressure. This was no different, only quieter. Judge Alvarez ruled with brisk finality. The will and scholarship trust were validated in full. 5-year no-contact order issued. restitution for all unauthorized withdrawals plus interest, revocation of access to any estate assets, and notice to both the bank and employer. Mrs. Rhodes, he said. Anything further? I stood, the chain at my neck cool against my skin. Yes, Your Honor, keys. I placed the single spare key to her home on the bailiff's desk. Catalog it as non-returnable. Locksmith's booked for noon. The gavel came down, crisp as punctuation. Outside, the wind off the river smelled like rain. Seraphine's phone buzzed. A notification of HR suspension. Cade's face went pale at his own email. Compliance review initiated. Please prepare repayment documentation. Lydia's phone chimed with the scholarship dashboard. Donations up another $10,000 overnight. A comment read, "For the night he stayed with my dad after hours." I said nothing. We walked to the curb where the locksmith van waited. I signed the work order and handed over the house address without flinching. That evening, the parish hall was warm with soup and low conversation. Nurses, neighbors, a few students filled the folding chairs. Reverend Jonah said grace. Celine ladled chowder into paper bowls. When I stood to speak, the hum fell away. "The scholarship has reached its endowment goal," I announced. Applause came gentle. Not loud, a shy boy, maybe 17, stepped forward with a worn backpack and an OHSU acceptance letter. "I'm the first in my family," he said. I smiled and handed him a folder with Ellery's name embossed in gold. "Then you're exactly who he had in mind." The room clapped softly. Reverent. As the boy hugged the folder to his chest, my phone buzzed on the table beside the soup ladle, an anonymous email. Subject line short and cold. "There's more you should know about Cade." The hall emptied, but my phone kept glowing. New message, no name, just one line. "Ask him about the second account." I stared at it, heart steady, mind racing. If Ellery's story was closed, then whose signature was still moving money in his name? "Subscribe, because this isn't over."